Today, we're diving into a theory that is, well, it's pretty mind-bending. It weaves together ancient scripture, modern science, and the deepest parts of human consciousness. We're going to explore the idea that God isn't something you just believe in, but something you can experience, directly, biologically. That there's a code, and we might just have the key to break it. You know, this idea of seeing the divine directly, it's not some New Age concept. It's been hiding in ancient texts for thousands of years. Take this quote from the Bible. It talks about going from a fuzzy, unclear picture to something totally direct, face to face. And right there, that's the question that kicks this whole thing off. What if they weren't just being poetic? What if the ancients were describing a literal, biological process, a piece of hardware we all have that's been hidden in plain sight this whole time? Okay, so let's start playing detective. The first place to look for clues is scripture, because according to the source we're looking at, this phrase, face to face, isn't just a random line. It's a breadcrumb, left over and over again. And what's so wild is just how often it pops up. You've got Ezekiel, Judges, Genesis, all talking about this direct, face-to-face encounter. When you see a pattern like that, you have to start thinking maybe this isn't just a figure of speech. Maybe they're describing a very real, very specific experience. But this verse, this is the one. This is the Rosetta Stone for the whole theory, because Jacob doesn't just have the experience, he names the place where it happened. And that name, Peniel, well, that is our first major clue. All right, hang on, because this is where we take a hard left turn out of ancient texts and straight into modern anatomy. We're going to connect that strange biblical name to something sitting right in the center of your brain. Peniel. Pineal. Just say it out loud. The similarity is just, it's uncanny, right? And that's the connection the speaker makes. The theory is that the biblical Peniel wasn't a place on a map. It was a place inside your head, the pineal gland, this tiny little pine cone-shaped organ deep in the brain. And according to this theory, that little gland is so much more than just a piece of anatomy. It's the single eye that ancient cultures were always talking about. Now, science knows it's sensitive to light, but the theory says it's a receptor for a totally different kind of light, a divine, informational light coming from the universe itself. And listen to how perfectly this quote from Matthew seems to describe it. If thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. It's almost like an instruction manual. When this internal eye is activated, you get filled with light. And what does the Bible say God is? God is light. It all starts to click.
Okay, but hold on a second. This raises a huge question. Receiving light is one thing, but how could a tiny gland receive and actually decode a complex, meaningful message? I mean, come on. To figure that out, we have to look at the next piece of this incredible puzzle.
The answer, believe it or not, comes from a totally unexpected place. We're talking about a Stanford anthropologist who was studying shamanism deep in the Amazon jungle. His work might just provide the biological mechanism for all of this. So this researcher, Dr. Jeremy Narby, he was fascinated by how Amazonian shamans had this ridiculously detailed knowledge of plants. How did they know, out of millions of species, which two to combine to create a healing brew? When he asked them, their answer was simple and kind of chilling. The plants told us. Now, most scientists would just dismiss that as a hallucination. But Narby had this absolutely radical hypothesis. What if it wasn't a metaphor? What if the DNA in the plants was literally communicating with the DNA in the shaman's body? A direct molecular information transfer. So, how could DNA talk? Well, science has discovered that our DNA actually emits something called biophotons. They are literally particles of light. And you know who is interested in photons? Albert Einstein. He called them messenger particles. They carry energy, and they carry information. And boom, there it is. That's the heart of the theory. If our own DNA can send out messages using particles of light, isn't it logical that it could also be a receiver for those same kinds of messages? We might have a biological radio system capable of both broadcasting and receiving information from the cosmos. So if our DNA can receive a message, what would that even look like? Well, get this. The speaker points to a modern scientific experiment that is a shocking, real-world parallel to this entire ancient concept. Back in 1999, scientists at the University of Wisconsin literally took a secret message and encoded it into a microscopic dot of DNA. They were proving just how much information could be stored in our genes, basically treating DNA like a biological thumb drive. Now look at this comparison. It's stunning. Modern science encodes a message into a dot of DNA and sends it through the mail. The theory we're exploring says the universe encodes a message into a dot of light, a photon, and sends it to be received by our DNA. It's the same exact process. Science is literally catching up to ancient mysticism.
So this begs a massive question, right? If we all have this incredible internal technology, this direct line to the universe, why isn't it common knowledge? Why aren't we all using it? Well, the source material offers a pretty sharp critique of the very institutions you might think would be teaching this.
The argument here is that organized religion has a vested interest in you not knowing this. It actively ignores that critical pineal link. It warns followers that practices like meditation are dangerous, that they open your mind to devils. Why? Because if you can establish a direct connection on your own, you don't need a middleman, do you? It creates a system of dependence, not empowerment.
And really, this is the ultimate takeaway. It's about profound personal empowerment. If the gateway is within you, if the receiver is literally built into your DNA, then access to this cosmic information isn't a gift from an institution. It's your universal birthright, available to anyone, anywhere. So let's just recap this wild ride. We started with a biblical phrase, face to face. We followed a clue from Peniel straight to the pineal gland. We explored how DNA might be a cosmic radio, communicating with photons, and we saw how modern science is accidentally proving that this is all possible. It's one seamless, incredible narrative. I absolutely love this metaphor from the source because it just makes everything so simple. If the universe is constantly sending out information, then meditation isn't some mystical, complicated thing. It's just the act of quieting down your own noise long enough to go to the post office and check your mail. And that's really the final thought I want to leave you with. This whole theory suggests that there is cosmic information, maybe even instructions for our lives, being broadcast all the time. So the only question left is, in our noisy, chaotic modern world, are we ever creating enough stillness to actually receive it? Are we picking up our mail?